Hey guys, Aaron Miles here from Team Outer World. Wanted to take some time out of my busy Force of Will schedule to bring you kind of a spoiler article from um, the Vingolf set that's coming out. Ruler All Stars. Um, Strange name, considering these rulers are not All Stars. Um, so first off, props to whoever is writing articles over at Force of Will right now for the main website, because this one is a very good one. Um, Talking about relevant meta points, how each ruler could combat the current meta, pointing out some weaknesses, but for the most part trying to talk up the rulers, which is what you should do when you're writing a spoiler preview article for the company that is previewing the spoilers. Um, anyway, props to whoever's doing that. A couple things I wanted to get into before I get into the actual cards themselves. Just things that stuck out to me from the article. Um, First off, the new resonance ability, obviously. Um, for those of you that aren't aware, resonance is a new ability premiering in Vingolf 3. That's anytime a stone of a certain type enters your field, um, then you get the resonance ability. It'll be an automatic trigger, happens as soon as the stone comes in. And all the rulers have it for their respective types. Um, some are better than others, but I'll get into that in a bit. The second thing that stuck out to me from the article is for residents, they pointed out that the stone does not have to be entering the field specifically from your Magic Stone deck, should that situation ever occur. Hint, hint, in all caps, which to me sounds like they're going to have some kind of, obviously, they're going to have some kind of way to bring your stones in from somewhere other than your stone deck. I would assume the graveyard is the most likely place, but at the moment there isn't any Magic Stone destruction, except for the one Ancient Magic card that I can't think of, the 6-cost one that makes your opponent banish a Magic Stone. Which makes me think there might be some Magic Stone destruction in the set, which would be interesting to see how they balance that. But if there isn't Magic Stone destruction in the set, and there is still something like a reprint of Genesis Creation, is probably my biggest fear. Which, for those of you that don't know, is put in addition a Magic Stone and a creature from your graveyard into the field. I fear any kind of Magic Stone recursion from the graveyard would just help out Fox a lot, as it's the only deck that throws its own Magic Stones into the graveyard currently. And the last thing I want out of a set like this is just give more fuel to Fox without really helping anything else out. But obviously, it's extremely early to tell. I'm going off of pure speculation here. A lot of this is probably going to be speculation, as you'll see as I get into one of the rulers specifically. I do a lot of speculating. Other than that, there were a few typos in the article that stuck out to me. For example, it says that the white ruler is a 1000 when the card says it's a 1000 1200. I don't know if the article's wrong or if the card is incorrect. Hopefully the article is incorrect there, as I'll go into why the 1000 1200 is a very good stat line. And the green J ruler does not have flying, which is likely intentional. We've seen a couple of green dragons in the past not have flying, so it could very well be an intentional thing. But it might not be, but it probably is. But just something I noticed as I was looking over these cards. So one of the reasons for this article or this video is that I've noticed, and I especially noticed when I was copying and pasting all of these ruler abilities, is that we don't always all read things correctly. I know when me and Ryan would do spoiler articles, we'd get into the article looking at the card for like the 7th time, and we're like, oh, I didn't know it did that. I read that wrong. So I'm here to make sure that everybody's reading everything correctly, that we're all on the same page. So I'm going to go in the order that I think the rulers go from worst to best. And I'm gonna spend a lot of time talking about each one. So this is the kind of video you probably want to like throw on in the background while you do something else. Just listen to me talk about them, because the visuals are nothing special. But so first off, we're going in reverse order. So the worst ruler first. And for what it's worth, I do think a couple of these are playable. I am not your cards are bad Blandon. I am show you why these cards are fringe playable miles. Uh, so here we go. So first off, the water ruler. A lot of people talk to me about this one, and they were like, "Oh, I think this one's pretty good." And to me, this card is a worse Xion. You know, it just so the ruler side, resonance, water magic stone, all of them are resonance. The type of stone that they are, color. Look at the top card of your deck, then put it on the top or the bottom of your deck. So scry. So to me, that's like a worse Xion ability. Xion always lets you look at the top card of your deck, not just every time you call a stone. Xion also does it on your J-Ruler side, and then while you have out Hydromonica, you're basically scrying every turn. So something like this, with a much higher judgment cost, with a much more fringe ruler side ability. I understand that this one isn't reliant on a Regalia like Xion, so that's a plus. But the fact that it only goes when you call a stone is a minus. The fact that you can't always see your top card is also a minus. The fact that it's not on your J-Ruler side is also a minus. And then the J-Ruler side is much less impactful than Xion. Let's take a look. So this card's an 11/11. So it's good because it doesn't die to Anomaly, but bad because it doesn't trade with Wyvern Griffin without some kind of Regalia assistance. Granted, only the 1200 1000s do, but then they die to, like, none of these guys are 12/12s. The stat lines on these guys are a little weird, especially for 5 mana J-Rulers. But yeah, so when this card enters, when the J-Ruler side enters your field, you return all resonators your opponent controls to the owner's hand. It's just not that good. I understand that, like, bouncing cards to the hand is Blue's gimmick, it's their whole getup, and it's just not good. It's one of the reasons that Blue has never been a very strong primary color in Force of Will. It's always kind of been the backup, the secondary, maybe even a third splash color. And this Vingolf 3 really isn't about to change that, at least from a ruler perspective. Assuming that a lot of the cards in the set, like the original cards, are kind of ruler themed as they have been in past Vingolf sets, I don't think Blue is going to give us anything spectacular out of this set. But yeah, this card just seems like an all-around weaker Xion to me. And then someone from one of my locals pointed out to me, like, oh, well, once Xion rotates, like, this is the next best thing. And I think Charlotte is better than this. If we go to, like, Lapis Cluster only. I definitely think drawing 5 cards at some point is a lot better than looking at the top card of your deck every time you pull a Water Stone. Because the only time you're going to be playing 10 Water Stones is if you're base blue, and then, like, splashing other colors, which is the complete opposite of what you do with blue for the most part. Usually it's like black splash blue, black green splash blue, anything but main blue splash other colors. So that's why this gets the slot of weakest ruler, in my opinion. Next we go on to Darkness. This is, in my opinion, the second weakest ruler. So, once again, Resonance, Darkness. Target J Resonator gains -1/-1 until end of turn. First thing right off the bat that you notice about that, it's mandatory, and it is not opponent. Like, it's not opponent's J Resonator. If you have Resonators and your opponent has none, you have to give your own J Resonator a -1/-1. The fact that it's J Ruler or J Resonator is neat, usually irrelevant. The best combination I could think of with this would be Separation of Body and Soul. Because for the most part, like, yeah, Monkey Trapped in Life exists, yeah, Elf tokens exist, but, like, target killing them at sorcery speed, even for free, is just mostly irrelevant. But the separation is nice, so most black decks outside of Lilia's Petal are going to be black-blue. So, I mean, there's that. But it more or less seems like a worse Valentina 3. So once again, ruler side, just a worse version of a ruler that already exists, and this time the one's in Lapis Cluster, so you don't even have the excuse of, oh, what about when Alice rotates, like Val 3's Lapis Cluster, so Guardian of Darkness Magic Stone's just not a good ruler. So we flip over to the J ruler side. This one's a 12/10, so it can at least trade with Wyvern and Griffin. It does, however, die to double space-time anomaly. But when this card enters your field, your opponent banishes 2 Resonators, which is good and bad. So the problem with Banish is that obviously if your opponent has like multiple elf tokens or like monkey and something else, then you just kind of whiff. You get rid of things that don't really matter. The plus side gets around things that have barrier black. It forces your opponent to... So if they're playing Lily's Petal and they have out like a Griffin and a Tama, because it's not a targeted type thing, then like they lose both of them and they can't like make a Chimera to get around that, which is really good. But if they have out like 3 guys, then it's like obviously like they still can't Chimera around it. So that's good, but if they go extra wide, then you're kind of in a rough spot. And for that, like, just not a strong ability for 5 mana. Like, you're not getting a whole lot out of the body on these guys, so the ability really has to be, the enter the battlefield ability really has to be worth it for the J-Rulers. And this one just isn't that strong. It's a little bit better than the blue one, but not by much. The big thing that puts this guy above the blue one is the ruler side at least has the separation of body and soul choice, which will probably come up a lot. But once again, it's just still really weak. The blue one and the black one are pretty on par with like what we expect out of Vingolf rulers. Not good. Then we move on to fire. So this one actually isn't that bad. It's not great. Probably doesn't have a place in the current meta, but not bad. So the ruler side, Resonance, Fire Magic Stone, obviously. This card may deal 200 damage to target Resonator, so right off the bat, doesn't hit Jays, but it is optional, which is a lot better. And you can hit your own guys, which is actually relevant, because a lot of late Alice Cluster red cards, specifically Battle for Ataraxia cards, I believe, required themselves to be damaged in order to do things. So you could like play one of those guys, call a stone. The ones off the top of my head is like there's a 3/3 with swiftness, or no, there's a 3/3 that like gets swiftness if it's damaged. So like you play that turn 2 and then call a stone, hit it, swing. Mostly irrelevant things. I'd have to go back and look if there's actually anything that's relevant off of getting damaged. But the other thing that it opens up to is, because this is damage and not a -1/-1, you open yourselves up to cards like Demon Flame and Urashime Taro, which sounds a little irrelevant, or at least Urashime does, until you remember, here's where the speculating kicks in. For Return of the Dragon Emperor, I actually have to look up the name of the next set real quick. What is this called? No, bring me to the main site. Doesn't say it here. Was it in the story? It doesn't matter as much. We'll get to this later. Actually, no, we'll get to this now. So, Return of the Dragon Emperor, it is my speculation that we've already seen 5 of the color combinations. In Legacy Lost, we saw green, black, white, red, green, white, black, blue, and red, blue. So it is my understanding that we will see the remaining 5 color combinations in Return of the Dragon Emperor, which is kind of added to by the effect that they put in the blue and white modal spell into Legacy Lost. So if we do see another black-red archetype, which we will, I believe we saw the new Gil Lapis ruler who was black-red, so very, very likely that is what's happening. And it looks like it was some kind of like exile-based control deck, which actually fits into this guy pretty well, considering his J-Ruler side. We'll get to that in a second. It deals with exiling things, but under the speculation that we get the 5 other color combinations, black-red with this guy might not be the main ruler, but I could see him as a side roller in certain matchups. It all depends on what comes out in both Vingolf and Return for the Dragon Emperor. I really think a lot of these rulers set up for Return of the Dragon Emperor. But so we get to the J-Ruler side, and this is a 5 mana ability. This is something you could pay 5 mana for and be kind of okay with it, but kind of not, because Flame Trap exists, and you have to have Fire Stones to get his Resonance ability. So like you play those just Flame Trap things, but this in combination with Flame Trap, also an absolute guaranteed board wipe. So hit and miss. But when this card enters, it deals 1,000 damage to each Resonator your opponent controls. It's just Resonator, just opponent controls. And if a Resonator dealt damage by this card this turn would be put into a graveyard, remove it from the game instead. Which is very good. So, like, when you do the Flame Trap thing, you Flame Trap before his Enter the Battlefield trigger happens. I think that's something you can do. I'd actually have to go and check the rules on that, because the more I think about it, the more I think you can't do that. But anyway, you could just do this, let it resolve, and then Flame Trap. So mostly irrelevant. But exiling everything that it does deals damage to is huge. Obviously 1,000 damage doesn't kill everything. It doesn't kill Griffins, it doesn't kill Omits, it hits every stealth Resonator. Doesn't kill White Arthur. Trying to think if there are any other Resonators that are above 1,000 that are relevant. Excuse me. Resonators for the most part are pretty irrelevant. I say as Fox plays like 25 Resonators in every build. But yeah, so it'd be better if it was like destroy all your opponent's Resonators, obviously, but like I think that might even be a little too much, especially if it's exiling them. So I think this in combination with Flame Trap is pretty good. Definitely something to watch out for, especially since the ruler side does have a couple of combos built into its own color combination with like Demon Flame and things like that. This plus Lightning Strike even will take out pretty much any Resonator. It's a counter to your opponent ripping a turn 1 Killing Stone, because they go like play Tama or Monkey, and then as most people know, opening your own Tama is the soft counter to your opponent's turn 1 Killing Stone, because your Tama will just kill their second Resonator or their first Resonator whenever they go to play the second one, or flip, however they want to order it. And this guy allows you to kill the first Resonator they play when you're going second. Or even if you're not going second, like it doesn't really matter. They rip Killing Stone turn 1, they play Tama or Monkey, and then on your next turn you kill it, and they have to call another stone. So this guy's definitely not bad. I don't know about definitely not bad, actually. He looks promising. That's a good way to put it. Alright, so on to the next one. We get the Wind Ruler. This guy is very interesting. He would definitely require a deck to be built around him. But so what he does is when a Resonance Wind Magic Stone, target Resonator gains rest produce any color until end of turn. And here's where the problems start. That effect is mandatory, and that effect is not include your Resonators only. For example, if your opponent goes first, and they play Resonator turn 1, when you call your first Wind Magic Stone, you must give their Resonator the ability to tap for any mana. Which is mostly irrelevant, but very relevant at the same time. Not so much on turn 1 unless your opponent's playing Wall of Wind, in which case you get screwed. But mostly in the case of later games, like later in the game when it's like turn 5 and your opponent has like 1 open mana, and you call a stone and you don't have any Resonators, and then you give one of their Resonators the ability, and all of a sudden they have Seal and Wind and Light mana, where they didn't before. but I would assume for the most part you're going to be playing your own kind of sticky resonators. Uh, you're probably going to be playing some kind of hook ramp deck with things like Fruit of Yggdrasil, things that replace themselves on entry and then get to produce mana. It'll probably be built fairly similarly to a Fox deck, just because they play sticky self-replacing resonators, and that's the kind of thing that this deck wants to play. But then it has a totally different end game. This will be ramping into things like Captain Hook, White Arthur, maybe even Red Boy, since you have the 5 colors. You could easily get your Red Boy up to 1,000 damage. And then when you flip him, you get the 2 1/1 elf tokens, and then all resonators you control gain the rest to produce any color. And he's in color for Wind Secluded, so Moonbeaming him is a little difficult. He's got the 1200 defense, so you can't double anomaly him. He doesn't die to things that deal 1,000 damage. But he doesn't fly for whatever reason. Just doesn't, so you can get jump blocked by things like Monkey. He doesn't have a removal ability on either side. He's the only one that doesn't have some way to get rid of things on either its ruler or J-ruler side. But even despite that, he's pretty strong, all things considered. The ability to automatically put 2 guys in and then produce any color mana. Like, there's just a lot of potential awaiting in this ruler. And if the set is geared towards playing towards the strengths of the rulers, which I think it will be, it'll be very interesting to see what kind of cards come out to support him, because off the top of my head, the 2 things I'd probably throw into a deck with him would be like Fruit of Yggdrasil. It's very hard to remove. And then letting it tap for any color is great, and then like Artificial Moon. No, that's probably bad. I was thinking of the 0/6 green 1-drop, I think it's a 1-drop and I think it's green, that says tap target resonator's attack becomes equal to its defense, and then you play stuff like Fruit of Yggdrasil, Artificial Moon, things that are very hard for any deck to remove, so that your mana dorks are constantly surviving, and then you just make them huge and beat them in with them. But that's probably not good. But, you know, you gotta lay out everything that comes into mind. Yeah, I think that's about all I could say about this ruler. I really don't like that it's mandatory and doesn't only target your resonators, but we'll see if that becomes relevant at all. So last but not least, the one that I think is the best, the white ruler. So Resonance, target resonator you control gains +2/+2 until end of turn. Pretty much completely irrelevant. Just doesn't matter. This is where my huge speculation comes into play. Where for what's it called? For Return of the Dragon King. So if black-white is a color combination in Return of the Dragon King, which I highly suspect it will be, and if it is any kind of control-oriented, then I think we're going to see black-white control come out in a huge way. Mostly because stealth is a win condition that doesn't get stopped by this guy if you're playing it yourself, so let me get into what the card does. I'm getting ahead of myself. Seren is an Enslaved Magic Stone. Target resonator you control gains +2/+2 until end of turn. That's neat. That's irrelevant for the most part. The J-Ruler side. When this card enters your field, destroy all non-Magic Stone, non-J-Ruler cards. So complete board wipe on Regalia, Additions, Resonators, all that stuff. So if black-white's a control color, even if black-white is not a control color, and you're playing a deck that plays Ruler's Memoria, like you're playing a Ruler's Memoria stealth deck, like a Dark Owl, any of them, all of them play Ruler's Memoria. Although I'd be a little wary, because if you're going for a total board wipe, you're going to lose your Regalia, so playing Ruler's Memoria is a little fishy. I think you'd have to load up on Death Sights if you're going to play this guy with Ruler's Memoria. That way, when it gets board wiped, you can get it back. Or Horn of the Sacred Beast or something to, like, you need to, Death Sight's probably better, but, like, Horn is another Regalia that, like, you can just get off the field when you flip this guy yourself, is the point I'm trying to make. But even without a black-white control support, because it's mostly irrelevant to play white stones with this guy, because his resonance ability is useless. The reason I bring up black-white control colors being a thing is because if you don't want to play Ruler's Memoria, then you want to play black-white stones, so you would probably play some white cards that aren't this guy, and at the moment there just aren't a lot of those that you want to play in control, is the big point of hoping that black-white is a control color. But the secondary point is that, like, so black attacks the hand, so it makes your opponent want to commit heavily to the field in order to get around this discard strategy. And then this J ruler is very punishing for that. And we have so many discard cards available to us right now, between Scorn and Lapse, Darkstorm, Valentina's Reach, that I could definitely see this being a thing. It's something I'm definitely keeping my eye on, especially for Atlanta, especially when your win condition is like, set Riza, flip this guy. Oh look, my Rizas are untouched because the chance standby area is not, it's unaffected by abilities like this. It's not technically a part of the field, so they would remain unscathed. And then you flip this guy, you board wipe. You've been chipping away at their hand the entire game with cards like Scorn, Lapis Darkstorm, Valentina's Reach. You flip in your Rizas, you win the game. Playing Death Scythe with this guy is something you definitely want to do, because it is a card that you can get back after it blows up, and then if you have Death Scythe on field, this guy would get pumped up to a 12-14, which would allow him to trade with Griffins and Gwybers, but admittedly he does not do that naturally. So if they manage to stick one of those after you've board wiped, then you're probably doing something wrong. No, I'm just kidding. I know they can like dance back a Griffin, and there's really nothing you can do about that. But yeah, that's why I think the white ruler is the best one so far out of the Vingolf 3. But it's very possible that these opinions will change as we see more cards from Vingolf 3. It'll be a long time before we start to see spoilers from Return of the Dragon King or Emperor. I don't remember which. So this is my pretty much full speculation, first impression kind of video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be doing a couple more things like this as we get more Vingolf things, because I'm keeping a close eye on this, because I'm in the process of reviving one of my locals, and the store owner was like, oh, should we order Vingolf 3? And I was like, no. After Vingolf 2, you definitely don't want to order Vingolf 3, but it's looking a lot more promising. I know that the company said that they would bring Vingolf up to the power level of normal sets, and I was extremely skeptical of that. I was like, no, you're not. You don't know what that means. But so far, I'm keeping an open mind. Things look promising. And going back to the white ruler real quick, it's very, very, very rare that a card does so little on its ruler side, and has a high judgment cost, and I recommend playing it. But this is on par with what the ability would need to be to make something like that possible. So if you ever hear me criticizing a deck and I'm like, oh, your ruler side doesn't do anything, this is what your J ruler side needs to do for that to be relevant. This is what your J ruler needs to do to counteract your ruler side not doing anything. So yeah, that's the video. Check out outerworld.com. Actually, probably don't do that. Our website sucks. But keep an eye out for Team Outer World at events. Come say hi to us. All that good stuff. Collinsville's coming up. I'll probably put out 1 or 2 more videos before then. I was never good at closing. Alright, peace out, guys.